Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Trekyards. He is Commander Cocky.
He is Captain Foley.
And we got a new ship.
Mm-hmm.
We got a new ship.
Mm-hmm.
We got the Picard Season 3 trailer, and we got the Titan, which we can confirm is the Titan A, thanks to Terry Medalist.
No bloody B, C, D, or Classic.
Yes. So this is not the Luna class. It's not changing canon from Lower Decks, so I just want to point that out. This is a different ship.
Yes, Lower Decks is sometime before Picard Season 4, looking at 20-ish
Yes.
years. And lots of stuff happens in those times. Clearly, we get a new Titan. But yes, this is a detailed first look, breakdown, because we have lots of views. I was looking at a slightly higher source for the images, so it's slightly more high quality. I've done some good comparisons with the original source design it's based off of. But
first of all, I just want to say this is based on Bill Krause's Shangri-La, and it's not just based on Bill Krause's. Bill Krause is working on the show, so I just want to point that out because a lot of people have been making the comparison and wondering if Bill is getting his credit.
Well, it's Bill Krause's Titan, like with obviously other people, but it's him through the influence. Yes.
Yes.
And there'll be shots of that, Stuart.
Yes.
We'll get there.
We're excited to talk about that, and I'm excited to see it. I'm glad that Bill actually got some recognition and got his ships on screen. That is amazing. There's kind of been a mixed reaction to this one, but I really enjoy the design, honestly. It's confusing in a way because it seems like a TMP era ship, but all the interiors are modern and all that. But it is a newer build.
And we had a unique reaction to this ship because we've seen this design for half a decade. So seeing on screen in almost identical form is like, oh, okay, cool. Therefore, we're going to look for the small things, whereas most people it's a revolutionary design versus Stargazer, where everything's kind of new. So that was like an interesting learning curve by itself. Like, well, we know the design actually very well, which is it obviously flows together really well. You know, once you look past the confusing seeming mismatch, it is a great set of shapes that does work really well together, and it's very faithfully Starfleet. Obviously, it looked great in motion in the trailer. That's going to, I mean, assuming we get a lot of space stuff, this thing's going to really soar through the screen. Not overly huge, which I appreciate the not necessarily a downsize, but keep to a medium scale, which allows for not overly sized villain ships and shuttles being seen without being too dwarfed. So I really appreciate the size. The resolution in the trailer is such that it's hard to see details, like phaser strips, like the torpedo launchers. There's things that are kind of, well, we can't really see them. They're going to be there in some form. It's just what we've got to go with here is a, compressed Star.com trailer. But overall, looks nice. I still have nacelles. And this might seem a bit weird, but it's kind of missing glows on the saucer. It almost seems too grounded in the old school for the saucer. I'm not a fan of just glows for the sake of glows, and saucers aren't meant to have glows for the sake of glows. Maybe we could have done with having some docking ports at the front and the side, a la Voyager. Because Voyager has that front one with those two side glows. And also, is it missing a front blinky? So I don't see a...
Hard to tell, as you said. I mean, it seems like it from this image. But there are visible phaser ball turrets as well.
Yes. And they're red.
Was confusing to me anyway, because a lot of people are pointing out that they can see phaser strips. The more I look at it, the more it looks like phaser strips there.
There's definitely no forward phaser strips. Because they're the same colour as the hull. Anyway. Not on the bottom, exactly. There may be details, but they're so the same colour as the hull. They're not the brown or the dark grey of phaser strips normally. In this lighting, and this lighting is very directional, so it all blends in. If
you actually go to the next shot real quick,
yes,
looking at the way the light is hitting it, those do look like phaser strips on the top there. So
I think it's because
to point that out.
I think it's because they don't extrude as far as you'd conventionally assume a phaser strip. They feel like a plate line.
Yeah.
Normally phaser strips are pretty bold. I mean, they're not thin. They're thick and they're normally brown. So the fact they blend in so much, lighting, colours, we'll see. And like I said, resolution. But the second view, great side view. It's sleek as hell, but it's not a John Eves pointy sleek as hell. It's far more classical sleek as hell Voyager. Like the Rick Sternbach Voyager D approach of sleek versus the John Eves sharp sleek.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying, yeah. Bill Krause does some fantastic design work and is an expert model builder. So I seen his Shangri-La years and years and years ago at Wonderfest, and we actually did a video with him on it. He actually joined us for the video, which was nice to have the creator on as well. So if you haven't looked up our Shangri-La video, I'd suggest go watching it. We will do a comparison between the original Shangri-La and this design, because there are some differences. And actually, one of the funny things that they did change is one of the things I think we both kind of were confused about with the original Shangri-La, and that was those cutouts at the back of the saucer. There's like big cutouts at the back of the saucer, which we'll get to at some point. But they've filled those in somewhat and added like more impulse engines.
Yeah, impulse slits. I don't want to call them drives because the ship's so small.
They're on an angle, so they kind of face out each side. So I would assume this thing's quite maneuverable if it uses those impulse engines for maneuverability. Now, we don't know the exact size, but based on the windows, it's not huge, as Samuel was saying.
Very
earlier.
Reasonable size. Very, very reasonable.
Yeah. Yeah, but small compared to the ships like the Sovereign and other classes of that era.
The hero ship doesn't need to be the biggest, it needs to be the prettiest in any given scene. It's really special to have a fleet shot where you can see the battleships that are the big boys and then the quick assault things. This to me feels very refit sized. Obviously, the window scale in the saucer is extremely verbatim, to the point of probably going to be about the same. So you can probably scale very, very quickly, I feel like.
The more I look at those nacelles, I wasn't the hugest fan of them yesterday, but the more I look at them, I do really appreciate them. That being said, I do prefer the original nacelles of the motion picture era on the original Shangri-La, but these are definitely growing on me.
Yeah, I love them from the Stargazer. That's my favorite part. It's the most original yet classic design thing they've done. It's such a. I want to use this for Trek shot somewhere. I don't know how, but I just think they could just shove them on a Sovereign and look good. You know, the two things that stand out to me here is that the blinkies, the green blinkies, are so prominent. I love that because they're so minimal on a lot of modern Trek. Like those are bigger than the bulbs. All those bulbs are like TOS Connie size bulbs, are bloody huge.
Exactly. Yes.
So that
smaller ship, bigger bulbs stand out.
But I love how much that is because even on Enterprise D, they're not really oomph. So I really like that, and the fact that yes, there's loads of self-illumination. Stargazer had it, whatever, as in like that's a thing. But the fact there's 4 under pylon lights just stands out to me so much as a line of lights in a good way. I think it's like, oh cool, we have it's so important. 4 lights, the pylon 4.
There are 4 lights.
Good job, Stuart. Next view though, and I did crop in a bit because this is a really, really high detail shot, and some people said, "Are we sure the trailer is not tricking us because it could? We don't ever see a plaque saying Titan, and you can blink and miss. It does say Titan at the bottom. There is no trickery. This is the Titan."
I love the thickness and the wideness of this secondary hull. I love the shapes that are there. I'm not the hugest fan of the struts. I wish they were more. I'm sure they will, but they're just the way they're curvy. It's cool, don't get me wrong, but it's just I would have preferred more of a up and then up kind of thing, a little bit of an angle.
For me, it's let's do the refit but curved, and just to make it more advanced looking. It's weird, but I like it overall. I think again in motion. I mean, I prefer it to backswept. I prefer it to a lot of things it could have been in modern Trek, so I'll give it a pass.
Yeah, the shuttle bay doors, the lights, the markings in front of the shuttle bay doors, it's all very motion picture era reminiscent, like so much so that it's kind of distracting because it doesn't feel like a newer ship.
It needed some side greeblies and side glows, some blue like neon lights on either side, implying something. It's too clean, and we're not only for that.
Say that like it's a bad thing. Too clean sometimes good.
But in this case, it's too TMP clean. It's missing that modernistic oomph that doesn't define it as being modern. Like those two sides seem lacking in detail. Even the refit detail of the sides, you could easily put some greeblies there with a more glowy oomph or some window, maybe like two. I mean, this would be kind of cool. Have 2 little because you know how in the refit or in the original Connie they've got that top bay door that looks out. Imagine if you had 2 windows either side of the shuttle bay, each that you could see inside with full rooms, 3D geometry. That I think would make it look more modern because you wouldn't do that on an older ship, but a more modern ship. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be what I would have done. Would have changed the shapes, but
yeah,
would have been cool.
One thing people are going to notice right away is the amount of impulse engines and the size of them compared to the ship. They're very, very in your face. Like I said, this might help maneuverability. This might make this a quick maneuvering ship, but it's hard to say. I don't mind the center ones. I kind of like them. The slits on the side, it almost seems like a bit of overkill.
It's so
for
tricky.
Such a small saucer.
It's so tricky because what would you have put in the slits otherwise? To me, shuttle
torpedoes.
bay. Well, okay.
I would have put like 3 torpedo tubes on each side, rear-facing torpedo tubes. There is one in the middle on the neck, I think, but yeah, make it an assault ship.
Yeah, it's see if you'd had Enterprise E style warp impulse drives in the saucer, it would have been very much like, oh, it's just the E again. Would have been appropriate, but would have been whatever it is. The middle bit, yeah, my brain does say would have been cool to have a shuttle bay segment. Stargazer has multiple shuttle bays, I believe, or units. But there is something to be said for just the cleanness of, here's your warp, here's your impulse, bosh. That, I think, it works in its own way. It's just a little bit excessive. Yeah, I think that's kind of what I'm going for. What I'm kind of surprised about, though, in honestly this render, is that it's so bloody clear that if you look at the shuttle bay is the closest thing. If you look at sort of the right-hand side of the shuttle bay, at just the hull, you can see the paint detail. You can see the repeated texture. You can literally see where it's repeated. You can see it's just a plate. Like, you can see it's a 3D model. They didn't greebly this up to hell. They didn't add random dirt scratches. Like, that's all very... You can see the intentional Azteciness of it. But it's so basic in terms of 3D geometry. So it's very refitty. And it's kind of shocking to go back to that so much that I can literally see the polygons. Like, I know how that's formed, in essence. You know? It's interesting to kind of go back to that.
But it's a good look. I really do. I do like that.
Well, it's a look. It's a fully formed piece. It's just odd to go back to that. And it is interesting. It's nice that they don't have to hide the design with unnecessary things. This can live and sing and breathe on its own. The next shot, there's a front, which, those things are curved up. My goodness.
Yeah, I mean, I love the shapes that are incorporated here. The struts don't look as bad to me from this angle, but the secondary hull just looks bulky and chunky, like it can take a beating if it needs to, you know?
Yeah, this is the thing there where, again, it feels very TMP, and that they've moved past that, and that feels very, very advanced TMP versus anything modern. It works all the shapes, but it's an old one to go back to. I probably would have made more of a modernistic deflector. I think probably having it be the classic circle is too far. I would have made probably a custom shape and used more of the hull, I think. Maybe more of this.
It's very reminiscent of the Excelsior's deflector, kind of small and inset like that. But it also sparks the imagination to be like the Sovereign class. If it was yellow, you know.
Oh god, yeah, I'm happy it's not yellow. Yay for blue. And you can fully 1,000% see the phaser ball turrets here. Plain as day, yes. Red with the balls. And that is a hell of a retro thing to bring back, because that shit is antiquated. I mean, the Enterprise C was the first initiator, and we are, 90 years past that? About 100 years. So
90 or 100, yeah.
So I'm wondering if there's going to be I'd hope there'd be an in-universe reason as to we wanted to do double dip. Because, I mean, there's no reason you can't have both modernized turrets, because the phaser strip is very specific how it works. I could imagine that, and this might be a bit presumptive, they might be pulse phaser ball turrets.
I thought the same thing because they're red. They got a red box around them instead of yellow, which could indicate a different type of phaser.
If you were going full on with this as a concept, you have the phaser strips to provide the high-end, proper, normal, classic, constant beam, and then you have Star Trek 2 style phaser ball turrets explicitly for those purposes, so you get both and then torpedoes as well. And that would certainly make the battle look more interesting. It would allow the fans to get their beams that we're all craving from space battles, and yet have this punchy moment of which we get in TMP, Wrath of Khan, sorry. I don't know how they'd say it in dialogue. I've installed the new phaser ball pulse turrets. Picard's like, good job, Seven. Thanks, Captain.
I don't think they would mention it, honestly.
No, exactly.
I don't think it's going to be addressed, unfortunately.
But I feel like that would be a logical way around it. Have it be super functional and do both, because both is fine. Although I was also wondering, I've yet to be seen, no escape pods.
Well, you can't see them on the refit either.
I know,
when
but
we
that's
did our
200 years
video-
old, Stuart.
I know, but when we did our refit, they're actually hidden behind panels that blow off before they launch. So that could be the same kind of mentality here.
I mean, it's got to be. It can't not have escape pods. I just wish you'd see the plates. I think that would also really help the design to kind of differentiate. Because I know smoothness is a beautiful aesthetic, but just have that, even just a different hull color. And maybe they're there and we can't see them, but
Could be.
But
yeah.
the lighting is very more classic and it's hiding less of the sins.
We haven't got a real clear shot of the top of the saucer, which
No.
I wish we did.
Yeah.
The other thing that's missing, notably, is the registry on the bottom.
Yeah. Big, bold. There's
there's
lights for it.
There's 2 registry lights, but there should be something there at least. That's a little bit of a disappointment.
Because if you go back to the first picture, like there's 8 small lights, which are clearly the registry around the registry, and the 2 ones to like that's where it would be, but there's nothing there visibly. Even black and white, you'd see it. So I'm assuming render error.
Let's compare it to the original Shangri-la design done by Bill.
And this was a wonderful person on Twitter made these, and thank you, because this was so helpful. And boy, I mean, Bill obviously released all these stills years ago, so they're all available publicly, but it does show you guys briefly. And when we do the full episode when we get just the full high res version, this will be so much easier to do. So this is still a first look. Pretty similar, Stuart. Fair to say.
Yep. It's very similar. I do like the 3 photon torpedo tubes on the front of the saucer. I thought that was a interesting idea for the old one. They're gone now, and that's a good choice, I guess. But man, I like this design.
Yeah, I liked it in the original, but I'm also very glad I didn't keep it. Well, I'm kind of wishing that rather than having a very clearly just a refit bottom light area, they had a quantum launcher, E-style, or even Captain's Yacht would be cool. But then these are things. Yeah, I mean, this is what. Is it fair to say, in these 2 views, because every view is different, but both these views, 75% the same design?
Maybe even more, 80. Yeah. Very, very, very similar. But remember earlier I was talking about the strut and how the curve kind of bothered me? And now I remember why, because the original ones have that kind of, what I like, more of the angle, So yeah, there's subtle little differences here and there, just some proportion changes and things like that. So
even the side windows the same, like on the saucer, the exact same arrangement, the exact same spacing. New windows on the front, obviously, but I mean, it does kind of speak for itself. And like I said earlier, they bought this design from Bill. He worked on this version, so this is all legal. It's all good. Don't worry. And like I said, we've seen this for years now. But the next view is also very, very detailed. Weirdly, Bill had a different shuttle bay look, which they've kind of recessed into the refit, which is interesting in itself.
They still got the rear photon torpedo tube, but it's moved down now on the new one. And the impulse deck's actually a lot different than I remembered. It's much more simple than the old one.
I think I like the original impulse deck more.
I do. Yes, I do as well.
But notably, no phaser ball turrets above the shuttle bay as are on the Shangri-La. You would see them.
It's funny how at first glance they look so much alike, but when you start comparing them, like look at the secondary hull on that thing from the front. It's almost a completely different shape, yet so similar. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to.
But lens distortion as well.
Well, exactly. Yes. Yeah, that's true.
Part of the refit aesthetic is it's so well thought out as aesthetic, and so all pieces come together. The more modern aesthetic is more Aztec-y, is quite specific. But and look at the secondary hull on the front, the refit version, the color separates out the shapes. The new version, you've now got this big empty grey Aztec-y front that now looks both empty and lacking. Whereas you don't even notice it in the original because it just is part of the aesthetic. And I knew I noticed that in a previous shot, but it's like there's just a lack of anything. And the fact it's just panel detail just kind of stands out there. But the next shot, though, talk about this one, Stuart, because you never know about these, I believe.
This was released yesterday after the trailer on Bill's Twitter. And this is his original Shangri-La design. And then the new one, closest to us here, you can see the changes, especially in the nacelles, and the cutouts on the saucer have been changed a bit. I remember the original Shangri-La having bigger cutouts. Here's actually my original Shangri-La model, my little 2500 scale, and the cutouts are quite different. This must be a different version of the Shangri-La that he did.
I think this is Mark II. It's the same but different. It's kind of I'm sure Terry or Dave Blass looked at it and said, let's change this, and sort of circled with a little red biro, like, let's tweak this. These are things I don't want. I mean, very quickly you could modify this. Let's have the impulse engine unit be bigger. Let's put the Stargazer bridge module. Things like that. Very, very quick notes. I'm sure iteratively this was a very, very, very quick redesign because it's not, the baseline is so strong. It's just about personal preference and maybe story reasons.
I do like the bulking up of the top of the saucer.
Yes, me too.
Yeah, it looks...
That
looks
is very
good.
Refit era. That's very...
Yes.
Yeah, that really works. I just... Yeah, I'm looking at this and I just really think I would have added top, more Enterprise E style impulse engines. Not identical, but like that sort of high-end grill unit, I think would have cut through the shape similarities more versus just integration so hard that it just blends in just as Refit saucer. And the last picture of those two is a cool side-on.
Those nacelles do look great in this with this detail that they got there. I do like those new ones. You can see them a lot, but you can see the shapes a lot better here than in that dark, trailer.
Yeah, this is quite useful. Thanks, Bill. And we can see what looks to be probably the phaser strip areas either side. They're very, 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 very subtle. But,
yes.
But what else would they be? It's just there's just no forward phaser strips, and I'm guessing 2 escape pod hatches either side.
Seeing the model in different lighting without all the space filters and darkness and glowies on it really brings out the attention to detail.
I definitely would have added a ring of escape pods though. Super cool though. So yeah, guys, this was our second first reaction with detailed breakdown with thoughts. Huzzah. So, of course, go check out the trailers, go look at other reviews or other things, go look at Low Decks content, because Low Decks came out, content as well, and here's other us and them and busy bees, Stuart?
Absolutely. And make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any breakdowns that we do, because when we see more of this ship in the show, we'll be doing more breakdowns. Maybe we'll get a chance to speak to Bill and, see what the design evolution of this thing was at some point. So if you don't want to miss those, make sure you're subscribed. Please hit the like button and the bell notification icon so you don't miss anything. And join us for our lives and all of our edited videos as well. You guys can really help out our channel, and we'd really like you to. And hopefully you enjoy everything.
And support us directly if you can. Do more content like this via Patreon, PayPal. Join the channel on YouTube. Super chatting, super thanksing, or buying shirts, or just saying hi. That supports us morally. Yeah, hi. It's like, hi. It's good.
So until next time, guys, we are the Titans of YouTube. Trekyards. Oh my, stop with the A joke. Anyway, he's Commander Cockins.
He's got a Foley.
Bye, everybody.